I've looked over this packet also, and I remember very clearly what was said at the earlier meetings. And at least what I had in my mind before I opened up the brown envelope, which I had in my mind because I said it, was that the goal for this meeting was to come to the table with a list of cost reduction opportunities on all of these issues here, plus some other ones we can get added, and/or revenue enhancements. And if we couldn't have those, that at least we would have a schedule saying, by this date we're going to evaluate this, and by this date we're going to evaluate that, and by that date we're going to be ready to forward to council our recommendation, and bing, bang, boom. And like Rick, I was really disappointed when I opened up the envelope because there was only one department manager who really did, in my view, what we had asked be accomplished. But and again, Bobby, I don't mean to point just to you, but just from my point of view, frankly, I don't care about any of the numbers in here. I don't care about how many rounds are played and all that other stuff, because I'm not smart enough to know what that means. What I am smart enough to know is that in total, we're either not making enough money or spending too much money in the golf course and many of the other departments. And the goal is to figure out how to shrink that gap, how to make things better. And I'm not the one to sit here and look at the numbers and say, oh, well, then what you ought to do is raise your rates and cut 3 people off the payroll. Hell, I don't know. But what I do know is that we can't continue to drift and say, well, we didn't get what we want this time, but next time we get the idea, we'll have a schedule, we'll do this, we'll do that. And you know what? If people can't come forward with plans on their own, and if something specific doesn't come, I guess, from the mayor, who would be the next stop, then what's left is for council on their own imagination to start doing stuff, and that's going to be ugly, because they're not going to have a wealth of knowledge upon which to make good informed decisions. They're just going to go at it with a weed whacker and cut it out, and nobody's going to be happy. So, I echo Rick's frustration. I'm really very, very disappointed with what I saw.
You took my speech, but basically we started this budget year saying that we hope to break even or even make a few bucks. If memory serves me right, we're down. We project to be $500,000 down right now in the golf course. Is that still true? I remember in one of our last projections, we're going to lose that much this year.
Pretty close to it.
Yeah, and so I can say, well, it's been a crazy year. You've done all that work. We've lost the business. You got to rebuild it. But I really look for a plan that would lead us out of the wilderness. And maybe a statement that we ought to make to ourselves about most of these things is, let's at least find a break-even point. I don't know whether it would be a profit center, but I sure would hope. And that could, and by the way, to your point about let's have the council consider what the rates are, I think you ought to be proposing the rates that will get us where we want to go and not lose us too much business because they're too high. I think that ought to be part of the thing too. But anyway, I just can't agree more.
Let me re-emphasize what I said before. It's not so much this year. We're going to make budget this year. Like I said, it's going to be ugly. But next year and the following, we don't have more money coming in. We don't have more sales tax. We don't have ad valorem taxes. So we've got to start cutting now for this year, for next year, and the following year. Right now, I'll tell you, the golf course costs us too much money. It's overloaded. It costs too much salary, too much money's out there. That's the first thing that's got to be done. We've got to look at every facility in this city and say, how can you streamline? That's what I said earlier. We've got to streamline what we're doing if we're going to provide these services to the citizens. So that's what we're looking at.
Well, in light of the comments that you just made, Bobby, as of today, what would be your recommendations in operation of the golf course? And your recommendations on fees and other cuts in the golf course, what would those be?
Well, I mean, my hands are kind of tied a little bit because I don't want to, I've been told not to worry about certain fees. I've been told not to be concerned about some of the income because it was going to be offset by other
I can certainly understand
General
that
fund.
someone wants to approve those fees, but you're the guy that would be in the, you have the first best ideas about how to do it, I would guess, huh? And then get it approved by the mayor and his staff.
I guess what he's saying, we make this a little easier on Bobby.
Yeah.
Is if we're gonna go forward, what we all need to agree is let these department heads make their own recommendations. Because well, but there's,
That's
but,
what-
but,
That's
but,
not what I thought
we were gonna do.
but the problem is, there's some, most of the folks here don't feel the freedom to have that kind of discussion because they're concerned about retaliation. I mean, that's what we're but while we're on golf, why is at the table,
Yeah.
let him, and Bobby, you can, let him go through what he thinks we need to do or what we need to do to win.
Azalea City charges